Alrighty. Uh, so what's going on, Wade? Welcome to the first guest spot on the After Hours pod.
How's it
Um,
going, Broham?
Broham. Uh, that wouldn't be the worst pronunciation someone had done of my last name. Um, dude. So tell me a little about you, because I know a little bit, but most people, but we're both mysteries, right? So you started at Confluence back before it was even Confluence as a process engineer
Yeah.
in '98.
No, it was Dagger Kayaks. So I actually started at Dagger Kayaks in Harriman, Tennessee, when it was just Dagger Kayaks. And I just loaded trucks back in shipping. And it was like a dream come true as a paddler to get a job at Dagger. You was like, yes, the new red line had just dropped. And I had just got a job there to get a red line and hopefully maybe a vertigo when it comes out. So it was like,
That's hysterical. I mean, and the red line was like that, the mini version of the Piedra, or not Piedra, the RPM. Is that right?
It,
Vane.
it was supposed to be a flat bottom RPM. So it was supposed to be a planing hull RPM, and it was a massive failure.
Right. I've only seen one in the wild. Um, so then how did you go from shipping into, I mean, where you wound up being the,
They're terrible.
that like make stuff
I
go
just kind
guy?
of bounced around. Yeah, and then once I got at Dagger, I just kind of bounced around a little bit at Dagger, and they sold out. I mean, after about I was only there maybe 2 years, and then it came up for sale to a company called Watermark. Then Watermark merged Perception, Dagger, and Yakima, so they all come together in Easley, South Carolina. I was offered a position in South Carolina. I'll make this story short. So then when I came down to South Carolina, I worked at the time it was Watermark till 2004ish, 5ish, and then I left and pretty much quit paddling and everything. Came back to Tennessee, got in a different line of work and everything, and just forgot about paddle sports. And then in 2012, somewhere around there, maybe 2010, or 11, I kind of got back into paddling, and then I ran into an old buddy, Snowy Robertson, and he was like, "Hey, man, Confluence," and I said, "Wait a minute." So now we're looking at Wavesport, Dagger, bomber gear, AT paddles. I'm like, I'll never have to buy anything ever again. As a paddler, you're thinking that's worth it. I'm gonna take a massive pay cut doing what I was doing, but I was like, man, think about it. You got the full gambit of gear, boats, everything. I was like, I'm in, man. So now I've been down at Confluence, and then I worked there for a while, and then I left there in 2017.
Well, you also got into the most exclusive club in kayaking, which is beta testing gear slash helping design gear.
Yeah.
That is impossible. Like there's just no one in that club. So
It is very tight niche group to actually get paid to test a kayak. A lot of people's like, oh, I wish I, but man, it's actually a lot of work. It's like you're doing a different style of paddling while you're out there. You're taking notes. You're like, you're testing edges. You're paddling a little different than what I would just, oh, we're just gonna go out and screw around all day on the river. So the testing, yeah, I just kind of like I was one of the whitewater paddlers around Confluence, so they started asking me. They would get test plastic in, so we would test resin, and they would be like, "Hey, you want a boat?" And I was like, "Yeah." They said, "Beat the shit out of it within reasonable. Don't take it and throw it off. Just do reasonable wear and tear." I would purposely go out of my way to boof on a rock just to see how it would dent and things like that. So yeah, I got into the testing on that, and then started working more. I was in quality more on kind of with design and really started having more of an input. So the way they do it at Dagger is it's more like a team input. Snowy's like the head designer, but he takes input from a whole team. And with boats like one of the first one I worked on back at Confluence was the Nomad series. So when the Nomad came out at the time, so the Nomad series and then the Phantom project. So those two, and then it was a Stratus. I helped out on the Stratus, the Rome, and some Wildy stuff too, and Wavesport in the same time. So it was more like I kind of like got to test around on different stuff.
was it you that told me that the only reason that the executives at Dagger found out about the Phantom was because you guys started a fire in R&D or something?
Yeah. So what had happened? The Phantom project actually, because it was funny. This was actually back pre 9R. And I just kept harping away. There was this new, I just got into racing. I'd never raced a kayak in my life. And then I just got into kayak racing. And I was like, you know what? Screw longboats. I don't want to paddle a longboat. They suck. I hate them. And I was like anti longboat. And then everybody was like, oh, get a longboat. And I was like, no, no, I want a short boat. So I always thought there was something like with short boat. But at the time, you had boats like the Mamba, the people were racing. I think Pat raced an RPM at one point. It was like that.
Mhm.
Everybody was looking for that fast 9 foot boat, and I was always thought there was a market for that. And I just bitched and bitched constantly about we should do like a 9 foot race boat, 9 foot race boat, and all that. And eventually we did a prototype 9 foot race boat, and then I wasn't there the day, but then Snowy came in on a Saturday and was going to run one. Well, he's a designer. He doesn't run an oven. There's problem number one. So he puts the boat in the oven, puts the wrong cycle time or something. The thing like gets too hot, catches on fire in the oven. The whole place is smoked up. Fire alarms are going off. They don't know where it's coming from. They evacuate the building. I have to hear about this all later. And I was like, what the hell? What the hell? But yeah, that's how and they were like, what are you doing? I mean, it went over good, it went over good. But, the project basically was shelved at that time. And we started on the Nomad series. But that was the first version. And basically, I don't know if you've ever seen it. I have one. I still have one out in my shed right now. It's a 9 foot green boat. And so the first thing,
So it's just scaled to size
that's
right
exactly
down.
what it is. Have you ever seen it?
No, but I love the idea because people are always like, "Oh, we'll do another size or do this other thing." They just put it in CAD and scale it down, and you're like, "No, it
Exactly.
doesn't work that way."
It did not translate well at all. And we named it the dislocator because it dislocated Chris Grotman's shoulder at Homestake. And it was a beast to paddle.
Brutal.
I loaned it out to Hunter Cooper. He used it in one of the green races and did fairly well. A couple of my other boats. This was pre-Phantom. And we were kind of working on the Phantom in the background, but that boat was still circulating around out there. So yeah. Um, so that first version Phantom, there's been 4 versions before the final. That was version number 1. And basically just imagine taking a green boat, scaling it down, and it had no rocker. It had that pointy front end, and it had a long, slender stern, and it just did not translate well. It just did not work well. It didn't come out of drop smooth. It was great in flat water. I think it's a great flat. Like
I'm
if you're
sure.
sprint, but if you're
Yeah.
going over rapids, it sucks.
So you made a 2016, 2017 Corsica. Congratulations.
Exactly. It had a high volume in the back.
Okay, so mild improvement. So,
you not got any? Even got class 5 beer here.
I'm
This is
sitting.
supposed to be beer after work. I thought this was beer after work.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm sitting in my office and I got 3 inches of snow and ice to drive home through, so I'm
Okay.
a bit on the responsible train.
I just got home a little while ago, so I stopped and grabbed some.
So we wound up deciding to talk about this because I wound up reaching out to you over a playboat video that I was working on, and we wound up on the phone for like almost 2 hours, I think.
Yeah, good times.
Good times. So one thing that I wanted to talk about with you in a more public way, which we've already talked about, but you have such an interesting perspective on, is so right now, every year this time of year we're looking at like what's the new fad going to be, who's out in the weeds trying to start a trend, and right now I think it's Waka safely with they're calling it the Steeze. It's an OG, which was already a massive boat, like bigger than it was supposed to be boat. And they're just taking the stern off and going, hey, it's a half slice now. It's a tadpole. And I want to talk to you because with your history at Confluence, Confluence had the Transformer boats, tons of pods. What was the other boat that came after that had pods on it? That didn't come out?
There was a boat that was dedicated just to pods called the Dagger FX.
Okay, I was going to say the F6, and I knew I was wrong.
It was FX. It was a short. It was like 6 foot long, really high volume in the bow and stern with a big, deep cutout. So you could put these rotomolded pods on there, and these were rotomolded. So it had a rotomolded pod that went down, had a knob that just went down into the insert, and supposedly added volume. And then, but one of the thing was we sized the pod so they could fit in the kayak. So the theory was you're out throwing fatty loops, you want to start cartwheeling. I take the pods off, I cram them in the stern. Now I can cartwheel.
Oh, I
Did it
get you.
work?
So when you're
No.
paddling down the river, you weren't just like holding it on your lap, like you could actually go into the
No,
stern.
no, we actually designed the pods so they interlap together like this and went in. So you would lift the back band up, unhook the seat, and you would slide those pods in the back, put your back band back in. Now the pods were contained behind you as almost flotation.
That's an
It was
amazing
actually,
amount of work.
dude, that boat was a lot of work. And then one of my buddies did all the hand shaping on it, and he shaped flames in it. There's flames molded into it. So it's got flames coming down like old. He was a Harley fan, and it was like these
Yeah.
Harley flames going down it. It was just this crazy concept boat that Dagger wanted to do. But in conjunction with that, we focused on the Kingpin. So we already had a really good boat called the Dagger Kingpin, which was a really good, but to me, one of my favorite play boats of all time that Dagger made was the Kingpin. And we did a thermoform pod. So we thermoformed a piece of ABS plastic and then put foam, stuck it to the back of it, and then kind of screwed it down to the back of it. So you had this ABS plastic that went down on the front of the pod and all on the front of the boat. So the front of the Kingpin scooped in. It basically added more volume. It took away that scoop, and it was in theory going to make it more river runish, like more pop to it, but it did not. It did not translate well. And at the time, because I think I told you that at the time, I call that the Gadget Years
Yeah,
of
exactly.
kayaking.
Great term. Great term.
Yeah, because you had at the same time you had the Wavesport transformer, which we know has adjustable tips, and then you had the Piranha F6X, and it had a plate to adjust the rocker brake on waves. So Dagger, so in a project meeting, we were like, what are we going to do something different? So it was like, okay, adjustable volume. Now no one had done adjustable volume yet, so it's like let's test some adjustable volume concepts. So we just threw around all kinds. Man, it was like spaghetti on the wall. But it was the Kingpin was such a great boat that Dagger took that and they almost destroyed the Kingpin because they called it the Kingpin Icon. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's what it was. It was the Kingpin Icon, and it was supposed to be the predecessor to the Kingpin. And all it was adjustable pods on it, and they added fin boxes on the bottom. And this was done only with mold work. So that means we found the added inserts to the mold and then added a fin box on the bottom of the hull. You got a new boat, and then
Right.
that's
So
a whole
you
new
added
boat for the
a
new year
positive
and a new graphic.
image, and then you just made it happen. Did you have
Yeah,
to
and this was, and we outsourced.
did you have to like
What's that?
solder that in, or did you get a whole new mold to do that?
No, you don't solder it in. What you do, you basically machine out a piece that's the size of a fin, like a fin box, and you just screw it into the mold. You drill holes, you screw it into the mold, and you weld around it, and then smooth it off, and it looks like it's just part of the mold. That's how you
Right.
come up with a fin box. Then you would sell those surf dog fins or whatever. Nobody used them, and yeah, I
I
mean,
found a pair in our
nobody
basement,
used them.
man.
I know you
I
told
have
me.
a genuine set. Anyone's looking for one.
Yeah,
My favorite use of all of that stuff, all those hard points that you added to the icon was I know a guy who screws a grocery basket to the front of his Kingpin and paddles it to a farmer's market.
that's actually awesome. Could you
It's
imagine him
fantastic.
squirting and apples coming out and hitting him in the face? I would have to splat something on my way back.
Right? And then everything's gone.
I
But
lost the whole bushel.
so I mean, my concern taking this back to that Steeze is like, all right, so every time we add an insert, every time we do something like that, we're adding weight, and then that pod alone is going to be, so now we're going to have like redundant hard points and mounting hardware and inserts and through spots, and it seems to me like it's going to wait. Every time I think about it, I find something wrong with it again. Like, it's eventually going
Yeah.
to crack and fill with water. It's going to be heavy out of the box. If you rear piton, it's just going to be a missile going for your spine.
I mean, I don't think the pod would come flying off, but I think in a bad piton, I think it could break those inserts. I think they would pull through. I watched the video. They just did another video not too long ago, and it looks like it's basically they added inserts to the outside of the stees, and then they're just running screws with a washer on it, and that's all they're doing with an Allen key. And it looked
Hmm.
like the guy just grabbed an Allen key and screwed it down. But you notice all of the videos, they're all paddling without the pods, and it looks like a great boat. The boat looks phenomenal. I
I'm
love the
wondering if they
concept.
really did just on CAD, just like work magic, or if they actually changed something on the hull side. Because it seems crazy to me that as wide as the OG is, that it was just like wax on, wax off, make it go.
Yeah, and what I do like, they're experimenting still with that wide stern, on even on a slicey boat like that, on a half slice. It's not really slicey. So like a river runner like that. I've noticed the stern's like that wide, and it comes
Huge.
out and a nice. And it was funny because I've been wanting to. When I was at Dagger, one of the things I just bitched about the most, I was like, we gotta update the Axiom. The Axiom's a great boat, and they kind of cannibalize it with that RPM. And I was always against that because I don't think a lot of people. It was funny when I got a job back at Dagger, and I was working there. I'm not a big fan of the RPM. I mean, I've bitched about that boat to a lot of people. I think it's dated. It's just like I think it's just that nostalgia behind it. And I got into the Axiom and I said, wow, this boat is really good. It does everything the RPM does and better because it's got edges, it's flat hull, but there's obviously some things that right away I could tell was off. And it's basically that rocker profile in the bow. I was like, you're not cartwheeling it. What's the point? Let's swell that up and make it more river runnish, which in turn, as soon as I seen the Ripper, I was like, shit, right there is exactly what I was talking about. Take the bow of the Axiom, swell it up, round it off, keep the hull, keep the stern the way it is, maybe widen that stern out and keep those edges back there, and that way that bow would just boom right over things, and I think it would be more like a creaker slash, which is kind of what the Ripper. I mean, Pat went a different direction with the Brat, which I really like the Party Brat, but it's a totally different direction than what I was thinking with the Axiom. But
I think there's going to be room for both. Like, I totally agree with everything that you're saying. In terms of having a plain hull and hard sides would really help you in big water stuff. But
yeah,
I think there's a lot of people that I feel like I'm preaching the choir with you being from the southeast, but that are going to want that displacement for rock sliding in the summer, which is when it's going to get the most use. So
yeah, and
I think there's room for ideas in that market.
yeah, and I wasn't meaning full on playboat planing, like more of a hybrid, more
Yeah.
like that half break, come out and do that half break. It would have been some experimentation, but I was looking for a good creaker first because I think paddlers are getting a lot stronger and more technique driven now. You look at these young rippers now, I think people would be able to throw an 8.5, 9 foot boat around with a slicey thern with no problem in today's time.
I think on the right river, my biggest thing I always come back to with it is I just don't have a whole lot of eddies that are 5 feet deep. You know, every 6 inches you
Yeah,
add to the stern of a boat, that's 20% less I can stern stall it in, right? So,
yeah, exactly.
uh, that's what's going to be interesting for the market for the next couple of years. I think there's so much spectrum from the antics all the way over to the brap and everything that's in between. But
Yeah.
I'm super curious to see what's going to come out of the R&D shop this year from Dagger and whether they went full slice, half slice, or Mamba. But we'll see. Um, what I
Yeah, but on the Steez, man, I don't know. The guys at Waka, I like it when like the small time guys are out trying to kill it. So I'm always a fan of like the little guys, trying to come out and they've got a good team, and that just shows what a good marketing team can do for you with guys like Anio and Evan and those guys. If you put a and I guess I seen like Caleb McGrady or whatever his name, one of the guys. I seen a guy left Jackson or whatever and went over to I can't remember what
oh
Evan Moore, I think that's who it was.
Evan
Yeah,
okay
so now he's
yeah
yeah, I think now he's paddling Waka. And I think that boat will do well. I mean, but will it ever reach that mass appeal? I say no. I don't think they can really hit that mass appeal market.
I mean,
I don't think they can meet the demand.
we threw around the idea at one point of seeing if we could do Waka East Coast or something like that, or somehow get in on that because we just wanted to be able to paddle them. You know, we're enthusiasts too, and dude, it's just the logistics that that company has to sort through before they're going to be mainstream, and it's not going to
Yeah.
cost you an arm and a leg to get one, and before it's just doable on a larger scale. They got a long way to come, but I'm
Yeah.
rooting for them.
I am too, but I mean, I don't know if you see it, but I think their retail is about $14.99 or something. It's
And
like
and then
14.59,
$250 shipping to get it to me. Yeah,
and it's not the cheapest thing. And you're getting up there $1,500 for a plastic kayak, and will you get a warranty? Eh.
that's it. That was just it. It's like I don't want to be the guy that sold it, that hands you a new boat, and then I don't get the warranty boat for a year, because that happens already with major
Yeah,
manufacturers.
yeah,
So
exactly.
like,
So yeah, but I'm with you, man. You wish them all the best. They seem like a good group of guys. They seem like um, they're trying to be innovative. I really want to paddle one. I want to try one with the pod and then without, or do it. I would almost do it without the pod first, then add the pod and just see the difference. And if I get a chance, I've got a buddy that says that they owe him some credit where he had bought an OG or something, then it didn't come through. So he called them up, and he was like, "I want a Steeze as soon as you can get me one." So if he gets one, he's in Chattanooga. I'm going to try to get one, and I'm going to like hopefully get it down Chioa, Coe, or whatever, and I'll give a good review of that right away. I'll
dude,
I'll hit you up. Yeah.
if you go, bring a bathroom scale, because I want to know how much that thing weighs with and without the pod.
Okay. Yeah.
That's
I will
that's
wait.
it.
I'll get like a fish scale and hold it up like catching a fish, and then hold that pod and
Yeah,
let you know. That'll be a true weight.
I'm
That'll
super
be a true weight of it
curious.
instead of just these random CAD. I did see they added a drain to it. It's got some handles on it, I think. I'm really curious. I'm like you. I'm wondering, you got a two-sided rotomolded pod. You can only go so thin to hold its structure. So I'm wondering, I mean, if that thing's like 8, 9 pounds and you've already got a 40-pound boat, you got like a 50, 60-pound boat. I don't know. We really don't know until we get one. And then it puts all the weight in the wrong areas. You're like, oh, well, my Nomad's 50 pounds, but it's 50 pounds dispersed evenly. Imagine me adding just 10 right here on the stern. Now you're going to be riding. You're like, whoa, this thing rides so weird. It's like it feels like the edge grabs on the stern or whatever. Who knows? I don't know.
You're gonna know from across the parking lot, because he's gonna pick it up, and if he starts stumbling backwards, you got
It leans
problems.
back. wobbling around the parking lot.
That's what I see, is a dude just like smash into the back of his own car trying to walk away.
Yeah. No, so yeah, I mean it's still out, but for what a lot of the whole reason you were talking about this, I think a lot of people kind of forget about things like that. That volume distribution and volume adjustable volume has been attempted in the past. It's nothing new. I was reading social media comments like, "Oh, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen." I'm like, "Been there, done that, buddy." I witnessed it firsthand, and it was a disaster. But mind you, the whole time that Dagger was doing it, they were trying to do it with a playboat. Playboaters are finicky little babies about weight. You got too much weight here, too much weight there. It's not so bad in a creek boat because, I mean, when we were doing that, it was like we were thinking of like, what if we took a boat like the Mamba and then had adjustable pods on the Mamba to make it like a slicey river runner and then a non-slicey river runner, that concept. But it was so bad with the playboats that it was like accident.
Yeah, why would you go back to that well? Yeah, totally. I'm just not sure that like I said, I can only see problems, and I don't know how such a small shop is going to figure it all out. But the last thing I would say on Waka is I just super appreciate the fact that they just have good guys on the team, and the level of hype that they push out there is
Yeah,
so much smaller than other small shops.
exactly.
Like, the smaller the shop, the bigger the hype. Like, just look
It's
at Soul, right? Like, Wow.
The coolness factor of paddling a walk is like,
It's inherent.
you know,
Like
you could be
you
just,
got
yeah.
it.
Any class 5 beater could just grab a Waka and you're like, oh, dude, you're going to get all kinds of questions. Everybody's going to be coming up to because they're so rare. They're so rare. When you look at boats like, you know, you got companies like what I mean, Zet and
Zet,
Letman
Letman.
and EXO. You've got those companies, but you notice they don't have that wow factor. Like you
No.
look at like the OG, the Stout, the Steezy, the Tuna 2. You're like, oh man, how do you like that boat? And it's like you're always like, you see an EXO boat, you're like, somebody who how much did that guy drop down to import one of those?
Well, like look at Adrian Matern, right? Like in that whole send crew, like Dane is just pushing Jackson and Bren is just pushing Piranha and Adrian is German. Like that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, and the boats don't look bad. They really don't. They don't look bad. They're not bad looking boats. It's just they're like really hard to get over here in the U.S. I don't see hardly anybody using them. They don't have any dealer base or anything. They might have a couple of distributors around, but like that's really hard to do. And then like at the price point, kind of like with Waka, do you want to buy something that you're really unsure about? The good thing about buying a Liquid Logic, a Dagger, a Jackson, and a Piranha to some extent, you know you're getting a solid warranty behind it. Like,
right, like
you
we were looking at it like, what if because we know they come out of a handful of factories. So what if we went and we just had somebody in Europe packing them into a container, and we would just do like a 1-year shipment and just get all of them, and that it always comes back to warranty. And it seems from the outside like that would be the smallest of things, but you can't service something like I can't service a Ford from Zambia. It just doesn't work.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
yeah. So then is it worth the hassle? Is it worth the hassle? Because it gives you a bad name. Because it ultimately, as a dealer, it comes back on the dealer. They're like, dude, I bought it from you. What are you doing for me? And you're like, I can't get it. And that's what happened. It's like, I can give you credit. And they're like, well, you know, I want this button. It's like, we don't have them. And it's like, you want credit towards something else. That's all you can really do.
Yeah, I mean, it basically puts you in that position where, like, you're a cop and your friend comes and asks if you can take care of their parking ticket, so you wind up paying the parking ticket. Like, there's just nothing that you can do.
Just eat it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.